challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samueli. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, back from his travails. Um, and so everybody across the United States, I know it's 10 a.m. on the East Coast, very, very early on the West Coast, but everybody, pencils down, coffee down. Now's the time for our joint weekly live stream. So, how are you, Peter?
Good, good. I'm on the mend and back to work, as you can see.
Yes.
And those of you that watched our podcast from yesterday, at least initially, we're going to be reacting to uh, um, the election. I don't know what you call that in Moldova, but we'll cover it quickly here. But I mean, we gave an extensive review with George's usual forensic offering of
Yes.
the
Now,
procedure. Let's call it that.
that's right. Now, we made a prediction. I think we don't usually do predictions, but we made a prediction because I think this was, we could take it to the bank,
Yeah.
what the outcome would be. The outcome would be that Maya Sandu, with the big, hefty assistance of the EU, would eke out a narrow victory.
Just
She
enough.
always says, just enough. Very, very convenient, incidentally. That it's always just enough, because clearly, and this hasn't been confirmed yet, clearly the early exit polls suggest that she was heading for a defeat, and that's when she started suggesting that this election would be annulled. We actually also predicted that if this election doesn't go Maya Sandu's way, the election would be annulled, and she was hinting just after the polls closed that this election would be annulled, which means that she saw the exit polls, and they weren't looking very good for her.
But
But somehow, when the counting,
yeah, but what was counted? See, that's the story here.
that's
Okay,
the story,
okay.
exactly.
Not that opposition political figures were under house arrest, under investigation, denied to run. 6 political parties were taken off the ballot, or never made,
Yes,
or of the
six
6,
parties,
not all of them made it on the ballot.
six parties altogether were banned. Yeah, six.
Okay,
Two in
and
the last couple of days. Yeah.
and then, and as already the voting papers had been printed, then you take 2 more parties off. Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
The clincher was because if you look at public opinion polls, European ones too, weeks before the election, Sandu was in deep trouble. Deep trouble. Okay. But they had a jack up their sleeves. It's called the diaspora vote. And so the Moldovans in the diaspora in the West, well, there's some people say that they somehow people voted for them already. What a nice thing to do for voters. In Russia, where there are hundreds of thousands of Moldovans, a scant few were allowed in 2 polling stations only in Moscow, and that was during
And moreover, not only that, they closed them very early. So in other words, the people were still lined up outside, and they closed. So I think last time, I think they had something like 10,000 votes for the Moldovan diaspora in Russia. This time, I think it closed when there were only 4,000. So of the, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of Moldovans live in Russia, 4,000 got to vote.
Well, the numbers have been bandied about between 250 and 300,000. Okay. As I never stop reiterating, why are they here? Are they here for the weather? No. They're here for work because there ain't no work there.
Right. So here's that, she gets this, pulls this out, but when we actually look, we find that the election results are really quite dismal for her. And it's something, again, just as in the referendum, just as in her presidential election, she somehow miraculously pulls it out in the small hours of the morning. Somehow she gets to over that 50% mark.
I think her nickname is going to be Houdini moving forward.
Exactly. So here's the Radio Free Europe, pro-Europe ruling party celebrates strong win.
Strong win?
Strong win, exactly. They always say this is a strong win. She said
No.
she just over 50% of the vote. just over 50% of the vote, to take 55 of Parliament's 101 seats. And then we have this patriotic bloc, 24.6%. It got
Okay, here we go.
26.
I'm sorry to interrupt, George. Here, the same propaganda trick here. The pro-Russia
Oh
patriotic
yeah,
bloc.
absolutely.
It's not.
Exactly.
They
That's
were
right.
pro-Moldovan,
That's right.
not pro-EU.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, and then here's the final tally. 50.2%. It's always that she always gets that just over that 50% mark. And then this is the shape of the parliament. And then, of course, the Financial Times celebrates um, after officials accuse Russia of underhand tactics to sway voters. Um,
What
underhand,
about the EU's underhand tactics and Sandu's own government's underhand tactics?
exactly. The EU, which this tiresome threesome of Tusk, Merz, and Macron showing up, and all of the threats that they've issued to Moldova, poor country. Hey, you're not going to get a penny from us if you vote the wrong way. And says the result will come as a relief to Brussels. As if that's all that matters. What Brussels thinks, which has welcomed Moldova's EU bid and pledged 1.8 billion euros in economic support for the small East European country. 1.8 billion for a tiny country like Moldova. That comes to about $1,000, almost like $1,000 for every adult Moldovan.
Yeah, but every adult Moldovan is not going to get that,
No, of course
obviously.
not.
Okay,
Not one
and
penny of it. Yeah,
if we look at how Western funding of such individuals and political parties, a lot of it is just just simply stolen.
of course
Okay.
it is. Of course it is. And steered the party she founded to a strong lead over her main rival Igor Dodon, a former president who's pro-Russian. Patriotic electoral bloc campaign under a hammer and sickle logo and promised to restore relations with Moscow and revert to buying Russian gas. All of
Yeah.
which,
So
incidentally,
where
yeah,
are they
yeah,
going to buy it from, George? Where are they going to buy? Where's poor Moldova going to buy its energy at,
yes,
at a
yes,
price that it can afford? Okay.
that's right,
I mean,
that's right.
we had this ridiculous. Russia cuts off Moldova. No, Moldova cut off
Yep,
Russia because it was supplying energy to Transnistria. They got
that's
the
right,
entire story upside down, inside out, and backwards. Just a
that's right.
bald faced lie. We did a video on it.
We did it. Yeah, absolutely. And then he says on Monday, Moldova's law enforcement braced for protests called by Sandu's main opponent, Dodon, in the center of the capital, Chisinau, raising the possibility of unrest in the country after Dodon questioned the results and appeared to claim victory immediately after polling stations closed. Then it'd be kind of interesting to ask Dodon, what's the basis of your claim that you actually won this election? But of course, they just say, well, that's all because that's just Russian propaganda. And then here's The Guardian, as you would expect. Moldova's election result bolsters move towards EU and away from Moscow. And then we have Moldova's pro-European blah blah, with more than 99.9% of ballots counted. President Maya Sandu, pro-Western Action and Solidarity Party, had 50.03% of votes. So it's kind of it's even less, just got to that, putting it on track to win 55 of the 101 seats. And here's Politico, also pro-EU party secures majority. But so again, they say 50.2%. They have to make up their mind, which is it, 50.03 or 50.2. And then, but it says the PAS appears on track to secure a renewed majority of 55, having held 61 seats out of 101 in the national parliament since 2021. So this is the only publication that I saw which actually said how the majority has gone down. So after all the stories about the strong win, strong showing, this wasn't a strong showing. She's done worse than she did, even with all the theft that we've detailed. She's done worse than she did in 2021.
Well, and it's still, I find it very curious that she just got enough to have a majority. I mean,
Always, always. Yes.
it's really
And
quite amazing. That, I mean, that's consistent, it seems like.
exactly. It's always like that. Yes. And then, however, officials say the pro-Russian BEP and the more opaque alternative opposition bloc stood to gain from a campaign of disinformation and bribery orchestrated from Moscow. So obviously, it's, people didn't vote for them for any reason. They weren't happy with Maya Sandu. It was because of a campaign of disinformation and
Well,
bribery.
why have they lost why is their majority continue to decline? I mean,
Exactly.
does anyone explain
No,
that?
no, 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 never. And then here's this vote, and you can see 2021, 52.8. Here they say it's 50.2. Other sources say it's 50.03. So it's, it's gone down. And so that's a decline. And then look who issued their congratulations. I wasn't expecting this. Emmanuel Macron, despite the attempts at interference and the pressures, the choice of Moldovan citizens has asserted itself with force. France stands alongside Moldova in its European project and its momentum toward freedom and sovereignty. What about, I mean, even if you take seriously these numbers, what about the 49.8% that didn't vote for Maya Sandu? They don't count. They're not part of Moldova. And
Well, I'm sure they're going to find that out.
yes, Ursula von der Leyen, Moldova, you've done it again. No, Ursula, you've done it again. You've stolen another election. Congratulations. You're making a habit of this. So, Moldova, you've done it again. No attempt to sow fear or division could break your resolve. You made your choice clear. Europe, democracy, freedom, our door is open, and we will stand with you every step of the way. The future.
I think if Kamala Harris makes another bid to get the Democratic ticket in 2028, she should call on Ursula.
This is kind of Looney Tune. Yeah, this is Looney Tune stuff. What she's writing here. Kaja Kallas. Moldova's vote is a clear yes to a European future. Despite Russia's massive efforts to spread disinformation and buy votes, no force can stop a people committed to freedom. We stand with Moldova on their path to the
This
east.
election had nothing to do with freedom. I'm sorry
Nothing.
to I'm
Nothing.
sorry to disappoint everyone.
That's
Okay.
right. That's
I mean,
right.
if you look at the campaign as it was conducted, it was only Sandu's party that was talking about Russia. The other ones were saying, look, a good percentage of ethnic Moldovans live in Russia. We
Right.
are in the same neighborhood. We don't need to be enemies. Why
Right.
should we be enemies? And
Right.
why should we go down the path of Ukraine? That
Right.
was the tenor of the
That's right.
opposition.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. And here's Tusk. It took real courage of the Moldovan nation and Maya Sandu personally to win this election. Why did it take courage? The EU was dangling money, and it took courage. What's the courage? Not only did you save. Oh, hold on a second. Not only did you save democracy and kept the European cause, but you have also stopped Russia in its attempts to take control over the whole region. A good lesson for us all. And Keir Starmer, he also chimed in.
The most unpopular prime minister in post-war British history. Keep going. No, I'm sorry. Let me be more careful. I think since 1977, when such polls started to be conducted.
Oh, I think he is the most unpopular, particularly.
Again, it's not evidence-driven. What evidence we have is polls that ask that question going back to 1977 make that
right.
clear.
No,
the thrust of your statement, I would agree, George. Okay.
Well, here's the thing. Keir Starmer only, one can say that for any government 1 year after an election, I don't think there's ever been anyone who's done. I mean, yes, there are times when governments have been extremely unpopular, but that's usually 3-4 years into their terms in office.
And maybe even a second
1 year in, that's very unusual.
Yeah, he's a winner. Yeah, he's a real winner.
I think so. Congratulations to President Maya Sandu on her decisive election victory, anything but decisive. Despite Russia's attempts to undermine Moldova's democracy, the people of Moldova had chosen a path of freedom. And here is the worst chancellor in German history, well, the second worst chancellor in German history, I should say, Bundeskanzler Friedrich Merz. I congratulate the people of the Republic of Moldova on their commitment to democracy. We commend them for conducting peaceful elections despite unprecedented interference from Russia.
Here's a man that wants to see the most popular party in Germany banned. Okay,
exactly, and they're going to do it. I mean, we've seen, obviously we've seen how they operate, and what they've done in Moldova, what they've done in Romania, they will unquestionably do in Germany. I mean, there's no. I mean, they've already.
And people will say, "Well, why, George?" Well, they just got away with it in Moldova. Okay.
They got away with it, and they got away with and they got away with it recently in a German mayoral election in Ludwigshafen. They just simply banned this AfD candidate from running. Why? Oh, he's opposed to the Constitution. Not that he's done anything wrong. He's not been convicted of anything. He hasn't said "I love Hitler" or anything like that. They just said, "Oh, we just made a decision." It's opposed to the Constitution.
We need some legal advice here. Is it illegal to be against the Constitution or question the Constitution or how the Constitution? I mean, see, we're not explained what. Do you doubt that the Constitution is fulfilling its commitment? I mean, the way they phrase it, it's a catch-all that means nothing. Okay,
right? Well, that's yes. Well, that's the thing. The way that it works in Germany is that they've kind of created this principle. I think they just made it up out of whole cloth, that if you're opposed to the German Constitution, you cannot.
Yeah, but is that a crime?
I don't know if it's a crime. They just simply say I don't think it's a crime. I mean, I think it's
that's just what I'm saying. Just because you're against
that isn't the issue. No, but but you're talking about something different now. It's whether it's a crime. They haven't said the AfD has committed a crime. They just said the AfD cannot hold office. That's what they're saying. So this mayor in Ludwigshafen, mayoral candidate in Ludwigshafen, he hasn't committed a crime, and he's not going to be convicted of a crime. So the issue is just that he's not fit for office.
We agree.
Yes, that's right. Now the thing that is interesting, and you mentioned this yesterday, is about Transnistria, and therefore there's another aspect to it, which is this: Moldova, in its constitution, Moldova has declared neutrality. Basically, it's according to the constitution that it will be neutral. That therefore it will not join any military alliance. Now, we know what scum we're dealing with NATO. NATO never really likes leaving things like that.
They don't like blank or gray spaces. Let's put it that way.
That's right. So then the question is this: Will NATO try to push for Moldova to change its constitution and allow for NATO membership? Now, Maya Sandu,
you've already answered your own question.
Well, but that leads to the next question, because NATO, according to its own rules, cannot allow a conflict on the territory of a member state. I mean, that's and therefore will there be
a small problem?
Exactly. So there's the problem of Transnistria. So will there now be a push for resolving by force, obviously, the Transnistria problem? Now Maya Sandu doesn't really have the forces at her disposal to deal with the Transnistria problem. She could, in theory, I suppose, ask Ukraine to send some forces to help out. She could also ask Romania to send some forces to help out.
Well, so maybe even a NATO out of area operation fighting narco terrorism. Trump has already set up that precedent. Right. There's narco terrorism going there. It was a joint effort. It was a what's the term? Right to protect clause. They're working on it. They're working on it.
They're
Okay.
working on it now. I think so. I think they're working on it. But then it's a very interesting because, of course, Russia doesn't have a border with Moldova, so it would be very difficult for Russia to send in forces into Transnistria. So if there is an offensive to against
Well,
Transnistria,
I'm sorry, just to preempt, George, closing that airspace would be easy.
well, yes, they could close the ads, but if this, well, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think that, and I think I was going to just say that. Yes, I don't think they can send in ground forces. They can absolutely use their air power against Moldova. So if Moldova tries and Ukraine together tries to send ground forces into Transnistria, Russia can absolutely use its air power against any invading force, and it could launch missiles at Moldova. Now, I have to doubt that the people, even the people who voted for Maya Sandu yesterday, particularly want Russian missiles raining down on them.
But I can guarantee you the people that voted against her want to avoid that scenario. I can guarantee
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. Um, so it's a very interesting question, because then, if the Russia does launch, in response, Russia will. I mean, obviously, Russia will respond, launch an air attacks against Moldova, maybe also against Romania if Romania joins in. NATO is, of course, going to do its own hysterical Article 5, Article 5, we're under attack, we're under attack. But of course, as we've said many times before, this is Article 1 issue. You're out of force, out of area, that you can't invoke Article 5. Moldova is not a member state of NATO, and therefore, anything that you do inside Moldova is
Well,
out of area.
what we could also see, there's so many different trajectories of this. Ukraine could go rogue and try to force the issue, obviously. Okay. That is something everyone should very much worry about. Because it wouldn't take much. It wouldn't take much at all. Transnistria is it's a little sliver.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Ukraine could, but I'm not sure they'd go rogue. I think this will be a
Well,
coordinated
yeah, I mean,
attack.
they never do anything rogue, okay? But they're gonna say, "Oh, it's the Ukrainians." They're doing this out of self-defense. No,
Right.
this would be very much calculated by NATO,
I- Again,
which is a huge risk. Everyone, they could see a Bay of Pigs type of
no,
situation.
I, I,
Also,
I think so,
I
and
mean,
that's
it's not a slam dunk. George and I are not suggesting that. Okay.
no, I think so. I agree. I'm just thinking in terms.
I'm sorry. You know what Transnistria is very well known for, George? And it's a relic of the Cold War. It was an arms depot.
Yeah, it is an
The
arms depot.
place is up to the gills
There's
in
lot
armament.
of arms in there. But in terms of how many Russian soldiers there's only about 1,500.
Yeah.
So yes, there's
And
arms,
there's a
but
lot
there's only a small. It's only a small Russian contingent.
and there's a lot, and there are Russian civilians as well.
They're Russian civilians. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that if there is an offensive against Transnistria, I think Russia will respond. I think Russia will respond with its air power. I think it will respond with missiles. Um, I mean, if NATO tried it, I think it would be a very high risk strategy for NATO. I don't think. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's such crazy people in NATO these days that you can't put anything past them. But it's possible that they could try to do this for the obvious reason that they're not going to just let it go that Moldova is neutral. I mean, after all that they've done for Maya Sandu, they can't accept them neutral.
Exactly, George. It's like, okay, Maya, we put you back in. What are you going to do for us?
Yeah,
There's going to
exactly.
be an enormous amount of pressure. This has
Yeah,
to be resolved. That's why we
exactly.
put you back.
Yeah,
And we all know you wouldn't be there right now where you are if it weren't for us. So, you've been paid, but we want to see that you're bought.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly, exactly. So, we're gonna.
Like I said yesterday, we're going to talk about this through the next few months, guaranteed. And you know what, everyone, give us, at least a hat tip. George and I are the first ones talking about this.
Exactly.
Everybody else will
Yeah.
be very
That's right.
soon.
They will be, exactly. No, we know NATO. We know the kind of people they are. We know the way it operates. They never let anything just alone. They got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, no matter how disastrous their activities are.
Meanwhile, the largest NATO base is being constructed in Romania. Everyone,
That's right.
isn't that a coincidence, George?
Yes, it
Wow.
is. It's not a coincidence, and a coincidence as to why they were so desperate to make sure that Georgescu was kicked off the ballot. You couldn't. They kind of have this guy Georgescu there. Um, so now, I mean, we'll come
George,
back.
I have a question for you because I tend to forget these things. This is kind of maybe an outlier, but there has always been a movement in Moldova to unite with Romania. Do you think that has any legs at this point?
No,
Because that's another way into NATO. What do you
that
think?
is another way into NATO. But then they're still going to have to, even if they did that, they'd still be the Transnistria problem, which is why Transnistria is separated. But the reason why I said no is that it's it's the EU NATO mentality is they kind of want things, they want numbers, So in other words, they're happy to have different little statelets rather than uniting and then have fewer statelets. Like Albania and Kosovo. If you ask the Albanians who live in Kosovo, they want to join. They would want to join Albania. EU, NATO will not allow it. They say no, no, no. We'll have an Albanian state here, Kosovo, and we'll have an Albanian state here, Albania.
A client here, and we have a client here.
Exactly. The more clients, the better. The more we can sort of, bribe them and use them for all sorts of ways. So that's why I don't think the EU would simply veto anything like that. That's why I always said that the idea that somehow Ukraine would cease to exist and the EU would sign off, and Hungary takes a piece, and Poland takes a piece, and everything. It's EU is never going to sign off on anything like that. Anyway, the thing I want to know, we'll come back to NATO and the Cold War in a bit, but I want to just segue into Netanyahu is making a visit to the White House today. So he's been hanging out since Friday, talking to various influencers in the United States and telling them how they should do propaganda properly in the United States, propaganda on behalf of Israel. These are American influencers.
Okay, I saw this, excuse me, earlier today, and a list has been made available of who these influencers are. Now, I don't know any of them. I looked at the names. I cannot identify any of them. That's a function of the ecosystem in which George and I reside. Okay, I don't. There's no reason for me to be involving other than to try to whoever that a former New York Times reporter to try to insert yourself. But these are influencers that I have no idea who they are, but they all tend to be 25 and under. It seems like.
Right. No, but I think obviously Netanyahu he wouldn't waste his time unless he thought that these people were very important.
Or his money.
Exactly. So he spent his time on that. And then this is how he devoted his weekend, and particularly, and he mentioned TikTok. He specifically said TikTok. That's a big deal for us. Why? Because TikTok is used by young people. I mean, I don't think neither of us uses TikTok, but the fact is, young people, people under 30 swear by TikTok. That's they love it. So he knows this is really important to control TikTok. But anyway, he's doing that. But he has this meeting with Trump today, and Trump, in the meantime, has been talking to various Arab leaders, putting forward his 21-point peace plan. Far more, this isn't a ceasefire. He's actually talking a peace plan. And prior to that, he said something very categorical. I want to just show this is the other day in the Oval Office on the question of the West Bank and Israeli plans to annex the West Bank. Let's listen to this.
I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. I will not allow it. It's not going to happen. Yeah, but I'm not going to allow it. Whether I spoke to it or not, I did. But I'm not allowing Israel to annex the West Bank. There's been enough. It's time to stop.
All right. So this is yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So what's interesting there is how many times he said, "I will not allow it. I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. I will not allow it. I will not allow it." Did you talk to Netanyahu? It doesn't matter. I talked to Netanyahu. I will not allow it. Now that's very categorical. And I mean, like,
Sounds categorical.
it's no. I mean, you see, I think that. I mean, I think we can discuss the de jure annexation of the West Bank and de facto. Now, de facto.
That's why I don't see this as a story, to be honest with you.
Well, except that I think Israel has been
Yeah.
suggesting that it intends to annex the West Bank formally. In other words, it's the way it annexed formally the Golan Heights. I mean, just simply say, "Oh, it's now a part of Israeli territory." Now, you can say de facto, it's a kind of creeping annexation.
Yep.
And Trump hasn't said that he's going to stop that, but nonetheless, he said that we're not going to accept anything like that. Now, but the use of the word "I will not allow" is very revealing, because it's an American president who says that's our relationship with Israel. If we don't allow something, it's not going to happen. I will not allow it. That's my. That's
Does the reverse mean if we allow it, it happens?
exactly. That's exactly what it means. It means exactly so that if it happens, because after all, American officials often say, "Hey, there's nothing we can do. I mean, Israel is just it's an independent agent. I mean, it does what it does. I mean, we told them not to do it, and they did it. I mean, what can we do? I mean, that's what they always. We told them not to go into Rafah. They went into Rafah. What can we do about it? I mean, we asked them very nicely, don't do it, and they did it. And then now he says, "I will not allow it." And of course, we've always known this. We've always known that whatever Israel does, it's a matter of if the United States were to put its foot down, Israel would not do it. And
I mean,
it means America did not put its foot down.
Yeah, but that's I will not allow it. Okay. I'm not when it comes to Trump, I'm not sure exactly what that means. But don't go into Rafah. Well, they went into Rafah. Okay, all right. We objected. We did the best we could.
Right.
Okay, and so when it comes to the annexation of the West Bank, it's ongoing. Okay, I mean, it's already many observers say now that it has been annexed. Okay, not in a legal sense, but
right. Well, but that's
in a physical sense, it has already been.
Right. It's a de facto creeping annexation. But what Trump is now talking with all these Arab states, the UAE and Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and all of them have told Trump that if Israel annexes the West Bank, then all bets are off. We're basically Abraham Accords. We're all walking out of the Abraham Accords, and that's Trump's one foreign policy accomplishment in all this time. Getting on for 5 years, he says his one foreign policy accomplishment is the Abraham Accords. And I think they made clear to him that if this happens, we're going to leave the Abraham Accords.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's again, why Trump is saying, "I will not allow it. I will not."
Yeah, but he is allowing it. Okay, he's not.
But that's all right. But that's all right. But that's a. But that's a different issue. I mean, it's
no. But that's the trick. You could say to the Arab leaders, "I'm not allowing it. It hasn't been annexed." But in fact, it has been annexed. Okay.
Well, look. I mean, the settlement building. I mean, this is an ongoing thing since 1967, and successive administrations have not. Have not stopped Israel building the settlements. I mean, that's Trump is no different from any previous president. They've all condemned it. They've all supported UN Security Council. Well, not always supported, but sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. But nonetheless, as far as the official U.S. position is, this land needs to be returned to. I guess to the Palestinian people. It does not belong to Israel, but nonetheless, the United States has allowed the kind of the de facto settlement building. But that, I think, is different. What Israel wants is the formal annexation. I think, and that Trump said no to that in his first term, and I think he's making clear that he's not going to allow a formal annexation. In other words, just simply saying, "Hey, this is now Israel territory proper."
But it's empty. Again, it's an empty statement. Okay, no, they haven't annexed it. Okay,
all right, Okay,
100,000 settlers.
right, but in that sense, then Trump is no different from any of his predecessors. I mean,
Yeah,
you
no,
say
he is the only thing that's different. He said, "I won't allow it." That's the only
I
thing
won't
that's
allow a formal annexation. That's what.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, wow,
But
wow, good
but
going,
that's something
Trump.
Netanyahu wants. But in the sense that yes, Israel is building settlements. Then it was building settlements under Bill Clinton. It was under Obama, under Biden, under every president, and every president hasn't done. No president has done anything at all to stop this. So Trump is being
Okay,
no
well,
different in
what
basically just
I'm,
allowing the settlement building to go on.
I don't think Trump cares one way or another. Okay, but I think what the meeting today, maybe as we are even speaking right now, is the return of hostilities against Iran. I think that's what is about. Oh, possibly invading Lebanon again up
Well,
to the Litani River. I don't think the West Bank is going to be part of the conversation.
I don't think the West Bank is a part of the conversation, but nonetheless, Trump has um, claimed that he has a Gaza peace plan, and this is the here.
Okay, we went through this one. I think even
We
by the
went
point.
through this one. Nonetheless, you see, this one I think seems more than the previous one. The previous was just simply a ceasefire. But here is Trump. He sent this truth out yesterday. I am pleased to report that we are having very inspired and productive discussions with the Middle Eastern community concerning Gaza. Intense negotiations have been going on for 4 days and will continue for as long as necessary in order to get a successfully completed agreement. All of the countries within the region are involved. Hamas is very much aware of these discussions, and Israel has been informed at all levels.
Okay, but by saying Israel has been informed at all levels, it doesn't sound like they're part of that discussion. They're
No,
just being informed of the discussion.
no, that's right. But that is a very interesting way that he has expressed himself, because it's clear that he's having negotiations with everyone, with the exception of Israel. He says has been informed, but Israel is not taking part in these negotiations. And he says there is more goodwill and enthusiasm for getting a deal done after so many decades than I have ever seen before. Everyone is excited to put this period of death and darkness behind them. It is an honor to be a part of this negotiation. We must get the hostages back and get a permanent and long lasting peace. Now, again, so
It's what he doesn't say is important here.
well, okay, no, but he's obviously having these negotiations with these Arab states. He's saying here Israel has been informed at all levels, so they're just being kept informed. He's also said, oddly says, Hamas is very much aware of these discussions. So just even that Hamas is
But no
being
one in
kept
Hamas
informed.
wants to admit it because they'll become a target. Okay.
Right. So anyway, here then is the Times of Israel, which outlines this 21-point plan, and look at the headline: "Creating Pathway to Palestinian State." The U.S. proposal for ending the war in Gaza encourages Palestinians to remain in the Strip and provides for the creation of a pathway to a future Palestinian state, according to a copy of the plan obtained by the Times of Israel. The 21-point document, shared by the U.S. with a handful of Arab and Muslim countries earlier this week, blah, blah, on the General Assembly's sidelines, also contains clauses that have been staples in various proposals crafted by different stakeholders in recent months. And then, but the decision to explicitly encourage Palestinians to remain in Gaza caps off a major evolution for Washington on the issue. Given that US President Donald Trump in February shocked much of the world with talk of the US taking over Gaza and permanently relocating its entire population of roughly 2 million people, these remarks gave significant tailwind to the idea among Prime Minister Netanyahu's far-right coalition partners, and even among more moderate Israeli political figures who have since worked actively to encourage voluntary migration of Gazans. And then, but the proposals envisioning of a potential pathway to a future Palestinian state after Gaza's redevelopment has advanced and the Palestinian Authority's reform has been completed, and also appears to be a major departure from the Trump administration. Um, while those terms are a major selling point for the Palestinians, the proposal, crafted largely by Steve Witkoff, also includes clauses that Israel has long demanded. These include a commitment for Hamas to disarm, demilitarization of Gaza, establishment of a process to de radicalize the population. Exact sequencing of the steps isn't specified. And then let's go just here are the 21 points. One, Gaza will be a de radicalized, terror free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of its people. If Israel and Hamas agree to the proposal, the war will immediately end, with the IDF halting all its operations and gradually withdrawing from the Strip.
Gradually withdrawn,
All
gradually.
right. Within 48 hours of Israel publicly accepting the deal, all living in DC's hostages will be returned. Once the hostages are returned, Israel will free several hundred Palestinian security prisoners serving life sentences and over 1,000 Gazans arrested since the end of the war. Once the hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence will be granted amnesty, while members who wish to leave the Strip will be granted safe passage to receiving countries. Hamas members who commit to peaceful existence will be granted to amnesty, while members who wish to leave the Strip will be granted safe passage to
George, do you
countries.
believe any of this?
I have difficulties believing, to be honest. But once this agreement is reached, and aid will surge into the Strip at rates no lower than the benchmark set in January 2025. Aid will be distributed without interference from either side by the United Nations and the Red Crescent, along with other international organizations not associated with Israel or Hamas. Gaza will be administered by a temporary transitional government of Palestinian technocrats who will be responsible providing day-to-day services for the people of the Strip. And then the committee will be supervised by a new international body established by the US in consultation with Arab and European partners. This is we talked about this on Friday with this will be presided over by Tony Blair. It will establish a framework for funding the redevelopment of Gaza until the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program. This is the US plan's first mention. This is the Times of Israel says this is the US plan's first mention of the Ramallah-based Palestinian Authority. Israel has ruled out the authority as a potential ruler of Gaza, thereby nixing what has become. Anyway, then it goes on. An economic plan will be created to rebuild Gaza through the convening of experts with experience in constructing modern Middle East cities. Economic zone will be established. No one will be forced to leave Gaza, but those who choose to leave will be allowed to return. Moreover, Gazans will be encouraged to remain in the Strip and offered an opportunity to build a better future there. Hamas will have no role in Gaza's governance. There will be a commitment to destroy and stop building any offensive military infrastructure, including tunnels. Gaza's new leaders will commit to peaceful coexistence with their neighbors. Security guarantee will be provided by regional partners to ensure that Hamas and other Gaza factions comply with their obligations and that Gaza ceases to pose a threat to Israel. The US will work with Arab and other international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force that will immediately deploy in Gaza to oversee security in the Strip. Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza, and the IDF will gradually hand over territory it currently occupies. If Hamas delays or rejects the proposal, the above points will proceed in terror-free areas, which the IDF will gradually hand over to the International Stabilization Force. And then Israel agrees not to carry out future strikes in Qatar. The US and international community acknowledge Doha's important mediating role. A process will be established to de-radicalize the population. This will include
What does that mean?
well, I said it will include an interfaith dialogue aimed at changing mindsets and narratives. This is part of the new
Will
operation.
the blockade be ended?
Yeah, I think that would be absolutely would have to be. I mean, it's part of the economic plan. How can you have any kind
Well,
of
it
an
hasn't been
economic
mentioned.
reconstruction? Yeah, um, yeah. When Gaza's redevelopment has been advanced, Palestinian reforms are implemented. The conditions may be in place for a credible pathway to Palestinian statehood, and then the U.S. will establish a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful coexistence. Now, the the thing is that this has been crafted by obviously by Witkoff, but also by Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, and that means Trump is in some ways personally involved in this. Now, the question then is look, that this could absolutely be a framework for something, as long as Trump throws his weight behind it. So this the thrust of all these stories, Times of Israel has written about this, Axios has written about this. Is a U.S. plan. They say this is the U.S. plan. So it's a Trump administration plan. Well, then the question is, okay, if it's a U.S. plan, if it's a Trump administration plan, this isn't the New York Declaration. Is Trump ready to throw his weight behind it? That's the only thing. Yeah, it can work, but you have to be ready to throw your weight behind it.
Well, I thought the Israelis have to sign off on it too.
Israel will sign off if the United States applies pressure on Israel. That's the only
Okay, well,
that's
there's
a
no
condition.
evidence that the U.S. has much leverage when it deals with Israel, particularly over the last 2 years, George. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, the U.S. has leverage. It doesn't. It
Yeah,
chooses
it
not to
doesn't use it.
exercise.
Okay.
It doesn't use its leverage.
It
Yeah,
doesn't use it.
that's
So
right.
why would the Israelis agree to it now?
Well, there's no reason unless Trump were ready to throw his weight behind this. I mean, they've got this 21-point plan. I mean, it's a U.S. plan. I mean, that's what everyone is talking about, a U.S. plan.
I would love to see something like this come into being, but I have no reason to believe that the Israelis will get on board with it at all.
I don't. I don't.
I almost feel embarrassed for the people that put so much time and effort into this. Okay, I mean, if they're talking about rebuilding, why last night did they take the highest high rise in Gaza City and demolish it? I mean, I'm serious. I mean, what's going on here? If
Well, the plan.
rebuilding,
The plan. Well, true, but the plan hasn't been implemented yet. The question is, um, Netanyahu goes in to the Oval Office, and if Trump tells him, "Hey, this is the way it's going to go. This is the plan," and you have to accept the plan, or what, or we stop supplying you with
I
anything,
I think the
and,
possibility
and
of
we
that.
stop providing you with diplomatic support.
I think the possibility of that is about zero.
It's about zero. However, then you have to ask why, if Trump isn't going to do that, why is Trump doing this? Why is he
That's
putting
more of a
forward?
question to me than this
Okay,
plan.
okay, then okay. I mean, he's got this 21-point plan. Everyone is writing about this, the Trump plan. If he's not serious about it, then why put forward a
Well, I
Trump
mean,
plan?
I think the conventional wisdom is that if Netanyahu were to green light this, his coalition government would probably fail, and he might end up in jail. So, I mean, I don't push that issue as hard as other people do, but I mean, one of the reasons, I mean, I think most of the people that have been watching this over the years, George and I have been watching this for decades. Netanyahu is not an ideologue. Okay, he's not a religious fanatic. Okay, he's a very, very cunning political operator, and if he doesn't believe that Trump is going to take any action whatsoever to thwart Netanyahu's plans,
Right.
he's not going to go for it. He's going to say, "Yeah, it's a nice plan, but no thanks."
Yeah, I mean, if you say what do I think is going to happen, I would say probably Netanyahu will go into the Oval Office and will say, "Yeah, this sounds like a good plan. This could be a good framework," and then he would just simply carry on as before, and probably even more viciously than before. Okay, that's the Netanyahu modus operandi. That's exactly what you would expect him to do. The question then is, what does Trump do? In other words, what does Trump, given that, I mean, given he sends out these truth, and given this, it's a very detailed plan. I mean, it's a detailed plan that has been published. is Trump willing to, essentially put the weight and the prestige of the United States behind this very detailed plan? I mean, he can do it. The opportunity is there, but will he do it? Will he do it?
Well, I mean, if you look at the rhetoric coming out of the Israeli leadership over the last 2 years, they equate the people of Gaza as being Hamas. They're all Hamas.
Yeah,
We've said
yeah,
over and over and over again. Okay.
yeah, yeah. No, that's
Yeah,
definitely that's the Israeli attitude. Yeah.
those that want to stay, okay, will the blockade be lifted? I mean, I don't understand, why they would, where we are at this moment as we're speaking, while how is it possible in any universe that by the end of Monday in Washington, D.C., Netanyahu says, yeah, let's go. Look, I sign up for this plan. I mean, that's a leap of faith that is just not even imaginable for me.
Yeah, that's right.
And me and personally, like I said, I think he wants to talk about attacking Iran. I mean, have your boys work on this
Right.
plan.
Yes, I mean, he probably do it, but that's not what Trump is talking about. I mean, that isn't what Trump is talking about now.
I guess that for me is the real question. What is Trump's gambit here? I mean, if again, why push something unless you're going to stake your entire presidency on it? Because that's what he would essentially be doing.
He would do it, but this is a fight that Trump could win. I mean, it's not a fight that he's going to lose. If in a fight between the United States and Israel, the United States holds all the cards. Israel has a very low reputation now. Israel can't pull the things that it's pulled in the past because everyone's sick to death of Israel. So if Netanyahu decided, hey, I'm going to go to war against Trump, this is a war Netanyahu.
That's why Trump is going to allow Jewish billionaires to buy TikTok. Okay.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Okay.
Why would he give everything all the time and then suddenly say,
that's a different issue. I mean, why wouldn't he? He likes these people. I mean, he likes their money. I mean, I mean, they moved in very, very quickly. And he likes these characters, Larry Ellison and all the rest of them. He likes them. That's nice sort of nice billions there. However, look, other presidents. I mean, not many, but other presidents have tried to take on the Israel lobby.
And how did that work out?
Well, Obama did it, and Obama prevailed.
Obama left the White House giving Israel more money than anyone of his predecessors.
Yes, but the JCPOA, the Israel lobby, went to war against the JCPOA. He went ahead and signed the JCPOA. I mean, so he stood up to Netanyahu. Netanyahu came to the country and addressed both houses of Congress, and Obama just still went ahead with it.
What's in it for Trump? And you said he can win. I don't know what that means at this point, but I get your drift. Okay, I just don't know why Trump would be interested in this now. Okay, what is his gambit? Okay, because it wasn't too long ago that the United States, in its huge base in Qatar, watched the Israelis attack an American ally. What's going on? Because what we always talk about, what do they have on Trump? Okay,
no, I hate that sort of talk because people
we haven't
done that. I hate that. It's people who talk.
Never done that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Well, the thing about the Qatar thing, it's not clear to me that Trump was in on that. I mean, it's to me that I think that I think he was pissed off. I mean, all the evidence is that he was pissed off about it. He had to get onto Qatar and apologize and say within minutes, this will never happen again. I mean, if he was in on it, I don't think he would say within minutes, this will never happen.
Within hours, the Israelis said, it could happen again.
Yeah, that's what. Well, yes, the Israelis said this, but not Trump didn't say that.
Okay, that's what we're getting to the center of all. Where is the center of power? And I mean economic power, political power. I mean, there's so many dimensions right here. I don't know why Trump suddenly feels like I'm going to flip the script on the Israelis. I mean, I suppose it's conceivable. I just don't know what is Gaza to Donald Trump.
No, not in the slightest. However, he may be feeling that this war in Gaza, Netanyahu is just not going to win this war. I mean, he's not going to do it. It's going to drag on and on. The longer it drags on and on, the more it drags Trump down with him. And I think that I think he wants to see this, to bring this to an end. I think that's what he's concerned about. And I mean, I think that he probably isn't happy with Netanyahu. I don't think he was happy about the whole thing with Qatar. And I think that he wants to. Look. I think he wants to see this come to an end, and I think he's sick of Netanyahu. That doesn't mean that he's going to succeed. I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
today he's going to absolutely ram this plan down Netanyahu's throat. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I do think that he wants to get this out of the way.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. It's just that, I think we've talked about this offline as well, is that I just don't see any consistency with this man. I mean, this is a huge endeavor. I mean, and this is something that is a game changer in many ways.
Right.
In many ways, I just don't see Trump. He never gets, he wants to see boats blown up. Okay, I mean, he likes that kind of thing. This is going to be extremely hard, very, very complicated. As detailed as that 21 points are, just as you were reading, I said, well, is the embargo going to come to an end? Okay.
And, well, I think
then aid as of January 2024, I think what the date was. That was during one of that was.
I think no, it was January 2025. I think that was during the ceasefire when they were allowing in.
Of course, because that was the inauguration one. That wasn't much aid, George.
No.
Okay.
No. But I think the fact that Jared Kushner's involved would make me think that Trump is personally now vested in this, because Witkoff. I don't think he cares very much about Witkoff. But Jared Kushner is his son-in-law, and therefore I think he does care about what Ivanka, his daughter, and Jared are up to. So I think that's why one has to take this a little bit more seriously than his previous plans.
I mean, because I talked to George probably more than any other person, well, at least online, is that I trust your gut, and I'm going to go along with you here. I want to be surprised. I want to be wrong, okay? But I don't think I'm going to be surprised, and I don't think I'm wrong. Okay?
Well, I'm not sure you are going to be wrong. I mean, he may well not amount to anything. I mean, it's this will be Netanyahu's fourth visit to the.
I don't think if this is something that they've been consulting with the Israelis. So we'll take their word for it, okay? But they haven't really been involved within consulting it. In situations like this, you need acts of good faith, like withdraw the IDF completely, stop demolishing, get food in there, then announce this plan, okay? As hard as it would be to believe, there's a kernel of good faith in trying to end it. We don't get that. We have an acceleration of it. I mean, I don't know if you saw. I mean, just inundated with these TikTok things, on Telegram channels. I mean, watching that high rise. I mean, after 2 years, now you take this one down. I mean,
that's exactly what Israel is doing. However, at the moment, there's no plan. There's no peace plan that's on the being implemented. So Israel can just do whatever it wants until there's a peace plan that is being implemented.
Well, I mean,
there's going to be a peace plan that's implemented.
Yeah, well, I mean, I see are these warrants still going to be in effect and all these kinds of things. This is a huge.
That's true. The problem is that Netanyahu is not getting anywhere with this. I mean, this war isn't getting anywhere. That's the problem. That this is 2 years in. We're getting to the 2-year anniversary, and if you're Trump, you're looking at it and saying, "Well, okay, how long this is going to go on. I mean, even when he was talking to Macron, and he said to Macron, "Oh, well, I'm on Israel's side," and then Macron said, "Hey, how many Hamas fighters were there on October the 7th? How many Hamas fighters are there now? It's exactly the same. You haven't accomplished anything in 2 years, so therefore, this is going to go on for another 2 years." And so that's why I think Trump's thinking, if it goes on another 2 years, then I think this is really going to look very bad for Trump. So
Well, it'll be.
I think that's the incentive for Trump
He won't.
trying
He
to bring
won't
this to
want
some kind of a conclusion. That's different from saying that he will succeed. But I think that there is an incentive for him to get this out of the way.
Well, I agree with you completely, because if it goes on for another 2 years, that will be his foreign policy legacy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean that's and I think that's why I think there's an incentive for him. However, we know what a wily customer Netanyahu is, and he will probably play along with Trump. He'll say, "Yeah, this sounds like a good plan. I kind of like it. I think." Maybe I'd like to tweak it a little bit here and there. I'll get back to you. Let me go back to
Well,
tell
I mean, for
to my
me,
colleagues, and then I'll get back to you.
until I'm proven wrong, I'm interested in the shelf life of this plan. Okay.
Well, yes. Well, that's very true. I mean, but all I can say is that unlike everything else that we've had before, this one does have a some there's some details here. But before there were no details. This is a detailed plan, and his son-in-law is involved in this, so you have to take this a little more seriously.
Well, it's interesting.
Things.
I mean, just the entire tone and tenor of it's very colonialist. The Palestinians can stay if they wish.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I think
Jared, that's big of you, Jared. I'm not really sure why Peter plays the Bavarian chicken farmer. I don't know what you're trying to get at. I mean, I bought a new sweater today. I'm very proud of it, and I wear a bow tie. I have nothing to do with Bavaria. Okay.
Right. Bavaria. Yes. Yes. I think that it's well, I mean, obviously, we'll have to see.
Well, I mean, you and I think this is the third time we're talking about it at length now. But I mean, I think we're both in agreement. Is that what's the backstory of this? What it was motivating it? Why is Trump putting placing at least some political capital on it? And he's already mentioned in a lengthy through social post. So I mean, it obviously means something to him. Okay.
Yes.
I hope it's warranted.
Right. I hope so too. And we'll have to see. I mean, I think a lot will depend on the tone of today's meeting. So that tone that he struck when he was in that news conference, and he said, "I will not allow it." That sounded like a very angry and forceful Trump. That I haven't heard him talk like that when it comes to Israel ever. Now, then the question is, when he meets Netanyahu today, will he strike that tone? Because people are going to ask him, "Hey, what about your 21-point plan?
Well, I mean, and that's why
they thrown to him. What this and this in your 21-point plan? Are you gonna are you gonna throw your weight behind this 21-point plan? He's going to have to answer that question.
And that's why I I was going to say interjected, but interrupted you when you're reading that post, because in consultation with all levels of Israel or something like that, I mean, Israel's not part of this conversation. That doesn't bode well. That doesn't bode well. Okay, I'm sorry, it doesn't bode well.
Well, it doesn't. In a way, it doesn't bode well, but it's also in a way it suggests that Trump is fed up with Israel. I mean, you could look at it the other way. I mean, I've never heard Trump talking this way about Israel. Hey, I'm discussing it with all these great guys in the Middle East, and Israel is being kept informed about these discussions. That shows a level of hostility towards Israel that he hasn't shown in the past. We'll see. I mean, obviously, we'll see whether that lasts. But saying that, oh well, I'm these great guys that I'm talking to, and we're close to a deal. Oh, and Israel is being kept informed. That just suggest Mark Levin, or Tel Aviv Levin, he picked up on this in the Truth Social, and he was outraged at the idea that something is being done, something is being negotiated without Israel being present. He's furious about this. That's that voice of the Israel lobby. They don't like this at all.
Yeah, I think Mark Levin has the original American Constitution in Hebrew. Okay, because it's the only thing he sees is Israel, just Israel. All the stuff, all those years I watched him rant. Okay,
yes,
and it's all slop. He didn't care about any of that except for.
Right. Yeah,
you have to. You're only consulting. Why aren't the Israelis doing it? I mean,
yes, that's right.
This whole time period is all recorded for posterity. It's obvious who the winners and losers are in all of this.
All right. Anyway, so let's go to some of our commenters on our locals page. These are the people who are very generous, and they care a great deal about the dogs. They don't like to see Buddy angry, and so they contribute to our locals page. And so we have Danny Magoo says, another election stolen. For sure, absolutely right. And then Cynthia, always good to see you, Cynthia. Cynthia says, Maya Sandu is no better than Kaya Kallas. No, I think that's right. She's just a slightly older version, I guess, of Kallas. She's just another Russophobe with no basis for her yapping. Yeah, she's part of the kind of Sorosite world. I mean, I think she comes from the Sorosite world. She worked at the World Bank. So, she was kind of another person kind of parachuted in. This is going to be your job, bring Moldova in. And then Richard Phillips says, Sandu can't be as dim-witted as Kaya, surely. Russophobia aside.
It's hard to be stupider than Kaya Kala. It's that is a challenge. That's a challenge. Okay. No, she's an operator. Okay, I mean, and she was chosen and groomed and parachuted in, and she's fulfilling her obligation. Right. She wants to, after this gig, she wants to be president of the World Bank, like that.
Yeah. Yes, it's very interesting. I mean, all of these creatures, like Sandu, Kaya Kallas. What was the name of the Finn chick? Marin. I forgot her name. Marin.
It's our fault because we adopted Finn chick.
The Finn chick. They're all people with very, very limited abilities, and that's being charitable. They've all been promoted ridiculously above their abilities. And that makes them
promoted. Like, how well does this one look in Gucci? We got to go with her. Okay.
Exactly. They're all quite photogenic. I mean, there's the Finnish foreign minister. I can't remember her name. The Swedish foreign minister. They're all kind of very much.
They can't do it with the Danish prime minister. There's no material there. Okay.
Yes.
She's just a plain Jane. Okay. Unfortunately.
That's right. And they're all essentially, because they're promoted way, way above their abilities, it makes them very pliable. I mean, it makes them they're very easy to manipulate. Because, hey, you've been promoted to this very big job. I mean, they have the biggest jobs around, the foreign minister here, prime minister there, you're now the EU foreign policy chief. So naturally, that makes them very grateful to their patrons, the people who actually push them into these positions. And it makes them very useful because they are completely pliant. They do exactly as they're told. And that's the whole point. You just to litter Europe with these completely vacuous creatures, who are always going to be grateful to the patrons who have given them these fantastic jobs.
And they all make Macron look like an intellectual.
That's true.
But nothing was. You can't help Starmer. That guy is just. He's this guy. He was such a loser. Okay, he's nothing he can say or do, because he's always trying to find an angle. He doesn't give a hoot about his country or his people at all.
No,
I'm far away from it, and watching him, it's obvious.
Exactly. It's extraordinary. I don't remember ever any prime minister who was well. Like I don't know. John Major was staggering also in his complete lack of any kind of uh, charisma. I mean, do you remember John Major? Or is that
Yeah,
a
there was
little bit
always a great there was always a
before
great
your
debate.
time?
I remember him very well. It was that
Yeah.
big debate if he tucked his undershirt underneath his underwear or over his underwear. I mean, because that's is because there was nothing else to talk about. The guy was a complete
Right.
blank
No.
page.
No. That's right. Yeah.
No, to be fair to him, he was an effective party apparatchik. Okay, I mean
right. He was effective.
she was what she was he was chosen by Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher was no fool. Okay,
Right.
and that's what made and that's I guess that was the final culmination of Thatcher's machinations because she created a monster that would slay her
So
instead.
that's right. That's right. Of course, that's always the classic in
Yeah,
politics. This is it's almost like the Oedipus complex. I mean, it really is writ large in politics. Yeah, once you get that job, you slay the person who actually gave you that job. Yeah. Yeah. But he was he was a very drab figure.
yes.
And so I think he reminds yeah, I mean Starmer kind of reminds me of
I agree. I agree. I agree.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but see,
And,
but John Major was what he was. Starmer doesn't know what he needs to morph into. That's
right.
why
Yeah.
he's just like this kind of genetic blob. Okay, he doesn't know how to glom onto something. The rest of them seem to understand that. Like, look at Berbach. Okay, and she was supposed to be Germany cool. I don't know if Germany cool is possible. Like cool Britannia.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
means
Yes.
so they had to do. I don't. There are reports how much these people spend on makeup a day.
Right.
A day.
Yes. 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 But
Yeah,
that's right.
including Mertz. He's got like some hair specialist. Good gig if you can get it. Okay.
Yes. 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 Yeah. Yeah.
And Macron doesn't have to spend any money because his partner does them every morning. Okay.
That's there. Yes. No.
George and I are not getting into that one. We decided to let that one
That's how
pass.
it goes. Anyway, Cynthia, thank you very much, Cynthia. Very, very, very generous of you. Cynthia asks, Max Blumenthal recently said that the head of the ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt, testified before the Knesset that there needs to be a media blitz to replicate what Israel did with its pager attack inside Lebanon, which I think is very likely to happen since billionaire venture capitalist arms investor Mark Andreessen is partnering with Larry Ellison to take over TikTok. Just imagine turning on TikTok and presto, it's blowing up in your face, just like Israel's Operation Grim Beeper did in Lebanon. Um, well, that's right. I mean, there's no question. I mean, they are very, very shrewd. These Zionist billionaires, Larry Ellison and his son, Ellison Jr. Now they're taking over a CBS. They're going to, pass on to, obviously going to control how CBS covers the Middle East. That's the huge thing. Then we got Ellison. He's the one with the money. Larry Ellison is one of the richest men in the world. And TikTok, I think he and Musk, I think, are kind of almost exactly the same how much money they're worth. So he's going to take over TikTok. And there's also talk about the Ellisons taking over CNN. That's quite a conglomerate of media to take over. I'm surprised you can do this. I mean, I was always under the impression that the antitrust laws are, going to prevent that so much media accumulation.
I agree. I came across this thing, the full blowout, and then apparently Fox is looking for some kind of association with these. Okay,
Right.
Like they wouldn't be out on their own. Speaking of alternatives here, Vic, I can't pronounce your last name because my eyes are still not back up to snuff. But dear Peter, you surely watched the show Due Diligence. Ever thought of inviting them over? The Gaggle, Due Diligence, and the Gray Zone are my favorites. Well, Vic, I am a religious watcher of Due Diligence. Okay, I really like the program a lot, and I want to tell everybody why, and I want people to watch it. I am not left of center like the two guys, which I respect a lot. I'm more to the right of center, but it's good. It's a good cross pollination. It keeps you on your toes, okay? And those guys, they work their asses off. They work very, very hard. Okay, so I think it's a good idea to watch them. I like they're two Jewish guys, and I love their sense of humor. They make me laugh a lot, and that's the only podcast that I get that kind of experience. Now, the Gray Zone speaks for itself. I mean, Max, his wife, and Aaron, the rest of them are doing just amazing work. But if you're like George and I, we're off to the right of center, it'd be good to look at Due Dissidence to kind of get that mix there. It keeps you on your toes.
All right. Now, just going back to the TikTok thing, it's very interesting.
One thing maybe you have an answer, maybe the chat does, but they want to change the algorithm. But the algorithm is what made it a success. So, I mean, aren't they presenting themselves with the prospect of destroying the asset that they want to control? What are your thoughts, George?
Well, when it comes to algorithm, I have to plead a certain amount of ignorance. I never exactly understand what algorithm is. I sort of only have the vaguest understanding. What I'm assuming they want to do is to impose a censorship regime on TikTok. I mean, if you think about all the things that go on TikTok, people. I mean, obviously they posted that letter from Osama bin Laden. Somebody did that, and that got I don't know how many views on TikTok. Letter from 20 years ago. I mean, it's long forgotten that letter. I think they want to bring this under control. I mean, this is the whole point of why they want to get their hands on this media property. That they want to make sure that they know Israel is doing terribly in public relations. I mean, Israel has traditionally been really good at PR. It wins these PR games. Said, we're the victims. We're victims. Everyone's out to get us. And the Israeli officials still do this. They still repeat this. Oh, we're the victims. Holocaust, anti-Semitism. The world is against us. They've always been against us, the Jews and whatever. And it's not working. It works in Israel, but it's not working anywhere else. I mean, it's not working in the United States. Then you've got a real problem on your hands. So I think that's what they want to do. They're going to impose a very strict censorship.
But again, I mean, this is one of the reasons why younger people under 35 view it or participate in it, because they feel that they're getting an unvarnished view of the world. I mean, if you just heavily censor it, then people are going to turn away from it, because people are going to pick up on the difference very, very fast. Okay,
right.
And so,
right. Yeah,
everyone. It's next week is the second anniversary of October 7th. Netflix and I think Showtime, I maybe get that wrong, two major dramas about October 7th. This is what George and I are getting at. They're going to be constantly, every year a Holocaust film is made. There's never been one made about the Nakba at all.
Right.
Never. None of these streaming people have ever made a Nakba series.
No.
Okay.
No.
But my point is that people that pay for these streaming services, I don't know what the demographics are. I mean, boomers, they watch CNN or MSNBC or Fox, and they never change the channel. But people on these streaming services, and you have to pay for it. Okay, I'm not sure. Just because you put it out there, people are going to watch it. I'm not convinced that they understand their audience very well. Okay, certainly some people will watch it, but I mean, do they really care how much it costs? Do they care they're going to lose money because they want to win the propaganda war? After all, these are people that have more money than any of us could ever imagine.
Right.
We lost $100 million on Netflix last year. It's a trifle for some of these people.
Oh yeah, it's an absolute trifle for all of them, Larry Ellison. And I think what's striking is the extent to which you have these Zionist billionaires and they increasingly are now interchangeable with the Israeli government. I mean, they just act essentially as a kind of conduits for Israel. And now, Andreessen Horowitz, this it's a I guess what is it, a venture capital firm. Now Horowitz is the son of David Horowitz, who was the kind of a leading neocon. Has been doing this since the 1980s. He died recently. Now, what do? They funnel money into Israel, and they facilitate Israeli propaganda. And in the United States, they also funnel money into the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. They funnel money into research, weapons research inside Israel. So this things like Andreessen Horowitz or Larry Ellison, they're the ones who actually fund these beepers. They get this brilliant weapon of these beepers. This is all developed within laboratories.
It's interesting.
Funded
George,
by these Zionist billionaires.
But George has already mentioned at least 6 of these billionaires by name. And I would suggest to you, George, and it's an important difference now. 2 years ago, we wouldn't be naming names.
No.
Now, names are being named with great frequency and with great knowledge about what they're doing. See, this is not a good strategy, because you're going to say, "Wow, it's a small group of Jewish billionaires that control all of the media." I've heard people make that claim before, but now it's empirically true.
Yes, that's right. That's right, and I think that's definitely going to be the case, and people are going to bring that up as they have done in the past. Now, you remember the time when Marlon Brando, he was on Larry King. It was sometime in the early 90s. He was being interviewed by Larry King, and Brando said, "Oh, well, the reason why I think Hollywood tends to be so pro-Israel is because Hollywood is pretty much it's run by the Jews." Boom. I mean, I mean, Brando obviously he had that huge reputation, but nonetheless, he came under enormous attack, but certainly, they cut him some slack because they said, "Oh, he's just gone off his head." Brando, he's just become become lunatic. Can't rely on anything else. But it's a very interesting that this attack. He said something that there's no reason to argue. There was a famous book written by Neil Gabler, so How the Jews Invented Hollywood. Now that got a lot of it got very favorable reviews because you're saying nice things about Jews. They created Hollywood. Hey,
all of those studios
created by the Jews.
And actually, you can get more specific when you look at the origins of the first major studios. They were Ukrainian Jews. Most of them came from Ukraine.
Yes. Yeah. so
and they created entertainment that products that not only entertained America but the entire world. Okay, I mean it's not an indictment. It is a celebration of a group of people that invented an entirely new business. Okay,
right.
And it's empirically true. There's nothing wrong with saying it. Okay, I don't know what it was. I don't know the studio that created Gone with the Wind. It wasn't about Israel. It was about American post-Civil War. I mean,
right.
See, this is a trap. This is a trap. When I just say, is it empirically true that very famous Jewish billionaires are accumulating media assets at the same time supporting Israel, specifically the IDF? Everything I said is true. You can Google it.
But you see, but what you've just said and what I just said, then you get attacked. Oh, that's anti-Semitic. So that in that way, when they attacked Brando, they said, "Oh, of course, Brando is just anti-Semitic. Brando's an anti-Semite," because he was saying something negative. He said there was a negativity about that the Jews run Hollywood. Whereas you can write a book, like Neil Gabler wrote a book, How the Jews Invented Hollywood. Oh, that's very favorable. So if it's favorable, and you're drawing attention to Jews, then oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that shows how great we are. We created Hollywood. But if you say, yeah, well, the reason why so many films made in Hollywood are so anti-Arab and so anti-Muslim, which was what Brando's saying, is that Hollywood is run by the Jews, then boom, he is subjected to a ferocious attack. But something like this is now happening. So
you remember Indiana Jones and the
yeah.
Lost Ark?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is a really horrifically anti-Arab film, okay? And it was fabulously popular, okay?
Yeah.
And there was no accident. There was no accident, okay? But see, the issue is that has come to fore as we come close to the end of this here, is that there's nothing wrong with Jews creating Hollywood. I celebrate. I love film. George likes the old ones, okay?
I like the old ones. Yeah.
It's neither here nor there. I don't know what your people are all wound up about. But what people do get wound up about is that a small country, in a small apartheid country of 9 million people, seem to have an enormous amount of sway over domestic politics, our legal system, our foreign policy. Now that's what gets people upset. Okay, the Jews invented Hollywood. I celebrate those men. Okay, but if you voted for Donald Trump and you call yourself MAGA, you've got it.
Right.
This has got to concern you, and we haven't even mentioned Charlie Kirk here.
That's right, but this is why when people like Bill Ackman essentially use their billions to coerce institutions, essentially to suppress anti-Israeli comment, that's when it gets problematic. When you get, the certain small group of people have a huge amount of capital at their disposal, and they use that capital on behalf of another state, another country. You apply this pressure against Harvard or Columbia, or whatever, then that is indeed a serious problem, because it's I mean, it's not like, oh well, Bill, I feel very strongly about something in American history. Okay, at least we can say, well, okay, he's an American, he feels strongly about that. But if you feel strongly about Israel and protest about Israel, then there is something very troubling about it, and that people are troubled by it. And anyways, as Cynthia says, first we have ISIS acting on behalf of Israel in Gaza. Now we have Sudan, and surprise, surprise, along with Azerbaijan acting on behalf of NATO in Ukraine. So what do you make of these two strange, if not impossible, bedfellowships? Or perhaps you don't see anything strange, let alone impossible, about either of them? Well, I think we've seen how ISIS was entirely all of these Islamist organizations were always creatures of the American deep state and Israel. They were always of use to undermine Israel's enemies. It goes all the way back to the 1950s.
Attack Israel.
Sorry, yeah.
When did ISIS ever attack, or Al Qaeda ever attack?
Exactly,
Israel?
they never absolutely never attacked Israel. And you got all the support. It was back in the day when the British supported the Muslim Brotherhood against Nasser. It was always the case. They always supported these Islamists, whether it was in Libya, it was in Syria or Iraq. It was always against the secular rulers
and
in the Middle East.
The
nationalists, secularists. Some of them were radical, some socialist, or at least purported to be socialist rulers. Always, hey, these Islamists, they're basically on our side, because all they really care about is putting women behind the burqas.
All they care about is the mosque.
Yeah. Exactly, stoning adulterers, and have people, day and night reading the Quran. That's okay. That's great. Then they're not preoccupied with anything else, about inequality. They're not preoccupied about imperialism. They're not preoccupied about what Israel's doing. They're just preoccupied about stoning adulterers. Okay, go ahead, stone adulterers to your heart's content. So Azerbaijan. I mean, I think we've talked about Azerbaijan before, playing a very dangerous game. I think we're in agreement.
It's a small country run by essentially a royal family. Not the
Yeah.
not the most stable place, everybody.
That's right. That's right. Okay, Peter, I think our time is up. Thank you very much, everybody who joined us. Thank you so much, everybody who had came up with questions and comments for us.
And I want to say, everybody, George and I do this a lot. We just do one live stream together on Monday. But George does the forensic work, okay? I mentioned earlier due dissidence. It's one of the reasons why I like those guys, because they do the work. They put in the time, and George does it. I don't do it. George does it, okay? So if you got some change, in your pocket there, jingling
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
it would be, and I'm doing this. I'm being very pragmatic. I'm very glib at times here, but George puts a lot of time into this, and he should be compensated for it. And the compensation will show your appreciation.
Yeah, I second that. Thank you so much, Peter. And we will be back on our joint live stream next Monday at the same time. And then, of course, I'm doing my solo tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Please join me. Look forward to that. Until then, all the best. Bye bye.